Tell you a guy that I have not seen stub his toe yet, but it's ISRAEL Adesanya. Everything he does, he has done right. From his physical abilities to his mental capabilities. He has star written all over him. And so many guys, as soon as they have some success, they can either use that as a springboard or they can get comfortable. And we talk about it over here all the time. It is always okay to read what they say about you, but it is never okay to believe it. If they say you are the greatest ever and you believe it, you will not be in that spot for long. If they say you are terrible and you believe it, life is not going to be very fun for you for very long. Izzy does not appear to be doing either of those things. He appears to be getting better, working harder, learning from his experience, and offering more entertainment and creating more demand. So it came out over the week, I guess over the weekend, but Izzy was offered the weigh-in spot. I don't know what to call this. We need to figure out a term for this. I might have just had it right there. Offered the weigh-in spot. That might be a great term. But what I'm talking about, guys, is when there's these big fights, and in this case it's Robert Whittaker and Kelvin Gastelum. Big fight in Australia where Whittaker's from. First ever Australian champion. The Power of the Ultimate Fighter television show behind it. Long-awaited matchups. Long roads to this spot for both of them. Gastelum coming up the hard way to become the top contender. When you have fights like this, and you're in a sport like mixed martial arts, where you see shuffling at the last second. Somebody can't make weight. Somebody's hurt. Somebody's this. Somebody's suspended. What are you going to do? What do you do? Well, what the UFC has started doing earlier this year is weighing in another guy, having that other guy in the weigh-in spot prepared. He does a contract that he will fill in and take on either guy. He goes into a training camp, which has to be a terrible spot. Your motivation for that's got to be tough. Plus your strategies and your breaking down and everything that your opponents do. It's got to be a little bit tough with your coaches. Because now you got two guys. And Gastelum and Whittaker fight drastically different, not for nothing. But I mean, a little bit tougher spot to go in to prepare. So, okay, great. They're weighing these guys in, so Izzy would go through, he'd get a license, he'd deal with the commission, he'd get on an airplane, he'd go all the way out there, he'd do absolutely everything, and he would actually get on the scale. He'd cut the weight, he'd get on the scale. Now, he is shown as well. If he's not given an opportunity to and win, because he doesn't ever do the fight, he's now paid just to weigh in, just to be on standby. Well, I love that the promotion's doing that. I think there's tremendous talking points on that, but I think it's also tremendous preparation. Very forward thinking by the promotion. But what Izzy did is he said no. He said, no, I'm not going to do that. I am not going to go into training. You want me to do the fight? Give me the fight. Pull either one of those guys out, put me in, but give me a contract. I am not going through the preparation. I'll do everything you want me to do. Just give me somebody to fight. Not a maybe. I'm not doing this on a maybe. Well, that was interesting. We've never had somebody say that before. I've never been offered one of those. I've never been put in that spot. I would think that I would like it. Sure. I'm training every day anyway. Weight's always under control. Like to fight. Might have the opportunity. Love to get a paycheck and sit in the front row. Never had that. Izzy said no. Not interested in it. Which I thought was a very interesting play, but it also does give you one more dynamic, doesn't it? It tells you that that's the guy. You can't put him in that spot to fill in for a world championship and then come out a day later and say he's not the top contender. It doesn't work that way. If he's not the next guy in the line, what in the hell was he offered the contract to weigh in for to fight for the world championship potentially? So, now that we understand, and there's always a few guys. Right, you could pull Izzy out and put Jacare in. I mean, the guys are interchangeable. Jacare's got his arguments too. Sometimes you get log jammed, where you've just got so many studs. Luke Rockhold has to come to mind. Yoel Romero, and we keep discussing him in that weight class. I don't know if that's right or wrong. I don't know if that's right or wrong. He hasn't been that weight in a meaningful period of time. He has not actually made the weight. He's scratched on his last two, and he's talked about going up to 205 pounds, where I would like to see him go. I think there's a lot of fun to see with some new parity the OL up at 205 pounds. But the relevance is, those are your usual suspects right now. So if Izzy is anywhere in that conversation, and we know for sure now that he is, regardless of his ranking, we now know where he truly stands because he was offered this opportunity. I think that just makes for something very interesting down the road for Izzy. Whatever is going to be next, I mean, what are you going to do? You're not going to hold him out, put him with the winner of Gastelum and Whitaker. I don't think. I think you got to keep the guy busy. So let's take those two off the board, and now let's look at Rockhold. Let's take a look at Jacare. Let's throw Romero into the mix. And tell me who of those three guys you'd like to see Izzy fight the most. I think we can all agree there's no fight there we wouldn't want to see. So now who do we want to see him fight the most? Because it sounds like you're probably going to get your way. You're probably going to get to see Izzy versus one of those absolute top guys. And then with a win, should he get a win, slide right into a world title fight. Which is pretty exciting. It's pretty exciting. And the UFC does not agree with me in one way. I think, and I wish, but I will tell you, a little of this is selfish because I come over here and do something like this podcast or go make the YouTube videos or go on Arrow the Bad Guy on ESPN Plus. I need things to talk about. Okay, in fairness, I do need things to talk about, and this does help me. So maybe this is the more of the commentator in me than it is the intellectual fight student in me. But I love the dialogue of not knowing which of three is going to fully happen. Let's promote one, let's promise one, but let's have a conversation. But what if it doesn't happen? I mean, we just saw this with Usman. When it was Usman on standby to take on either Till or Woodley. That guy, so many things to talk about. First off, let's talk about Woodley Till. That's the one that's signed. That's the one we're promised. That's the one that's on the marquee. But then all of a sudden, well, what if Till misses weight? You know, that's happened before. And Woodley versus Usman. Oh, my goodness. And you break that down. You have all your fun on that. And then you go, well, wait a minute. What if it's T. Wood that pulls out? And it's Usman versus Till. And now it just gives you one more dimension to start talking about. The UFC sees it as, no, let's not offer a distraction. Let's tell the fans specifically what they are getting and specifically when they can get it. Proven recipe that has worked out great through the history of time. I'm just saying now that you're doing something new, which is this weigh-in spot, let's talk about it. Let's start speculating. Let's start having some fun. And if there is one of those potential matchup where everybody goes, oh my gosh, I would love to see that. I would love to see Usman versus Till. Okay, great. Well, now we know what we can do next. I think that could start to serve very well. I was in the exact opposite spot the first time I ever heard about this. It was Volkan. Volkan weighed in the weigh-in spot for the Stipe versus Cormier fight. They brought him all the way over from Russia. They got him licensed, got his medical done, worked out a contract for financial participation with him, and put him on the scale. I never even knew he was the guy waiting in the wings until he got on the scale, and I thought, you know what? I would have liked to have known that. I think that is a great narrative, and the UFC said, not so fast. We had that on reserve. That was going to be a last-minute thing. We would have announced at the absolute last second that we had to, but we didn't want to take the focus on what we wanted first and what we were promising to the marketplace up front. I get it. I fully get it. But there is something fun about speculating and knowing who is going to be there just in case. There is something special, more special than the UFC, I think, is aware of. There's something more special than they are even aware of this new policy of weighing in a guy and having the guy on reserve. No more last minute, no more late, no more picking up the phone and calling 10 different people and seeing who can get to the airport and who's within striking distance of the weigh-in limit. Having a guy go through the process, there's something very, very special about it. Now the question is, first off, what do we call that guy? Do we call that spot the weigh-in spot? I kind of like, Nick, what do you think? It's not bad. The weigh-in spot. It's in the bullpen, right? It's in the dugout. First off, we need a title for it because it is a deserving title. It really is. I mean, it's a very hard spot. And you are a heartbeat away, as they say in politics, from fighting for the world championship. So there is something very special about it. So it deserves a name. And secondly, do we promote that in some fashion? Do we do like what they did with Volkan, where it's secretive and it's private because they don't want to use it to distract? Or do we dangle that possible carrot out there because that guy deserves some credit too? I mean, we're in the credit business here. Not very many people are ever going to make enough money in this sport to call it. And not very many people are going to go on and reach their goals to become champion, if we're being fair. You know, when Kenny Florian left the sport, he talked about that. You know, they said, Kenny, why are you leaving? You haven't been champion yet. I think you fought for like 4 world titles. If I'm wrong, it was 3. But he goes, hey, guys, look, not everybody gets to be world champion. But there was just a real truth in that. So the point that I'm getting at, let's celebrate more things. Let's celebrate number 1 contenders. Let's celebrate top 10 rankings. That's more inclusive. But I think we should also look to celebrate a guy who goes through a world title training camp, which is what Izzy said no to, but that's what he was asked to do, and it's a pretty cool thing. It's a pretty cool thing.